YB stays on your neck.
Josh, I watched an interview about something about memory loss and things like that. It's everything.
Yeah, he just got concussed in the third round. Didn't really recover. Doesn't remember a great deal from that third round. He's surprised actually that he went 4 rounds in the condition he was in, because he said, like, I couldn't stand up. You know, I was fatigued, didn't really know where I was. But he tried. He got up 4 times, so he's good. You know, for the first 3 or 4 days, he didn't really leave the house in New York. He was gutted. But now he FaceTimed me before we came here today. He's in the gym.
Yo, my dons, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and obviously hit the bell for notifications. So we just heard there from Eddie Cover Up Hearn telling us that he spoke to Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua has confirmed to him or told to him that he suffered a concussion in the 3rd round from Andy Ruiz. Now, let's call a spade on this one. I think it's not chance that they're talking about concussion. A concussion is a very particular thing. Being hit in the head is not the same as a concussion. Being dropped is not the same as a concussion. A concussion is a very particular ailment. Yeah? You can be hit in the head with a spade. It doesn't necessarily mean you have a concussion. So the fact they're bringing, Anthony Joshua, he got hit in the 3rd round and was concussed. No, Anthony Joshua's been hit many times. The Klitschko fight. Pick any fight. The White fight, the Povetkin fight. He's been hit many times. He's been put down before. And there's been no talk of any concussion. No, what happened in the Andy Ruiz fight was nothing to do with concussion. I can tell you now, what did happen was, 8 days before he was concussed, the whole team knew about it, and now they want to attribute, the concussion that happened 8 days ago, they want to try and make out it happened in the 3rd round. No way. Not possible. Look at the Klitschko fight. Look how many shots he took. Yeah? Look at the multitude of shots he's taken in every fight. Rarely put down. All the times he's really gone down have been more to do with conditioning and whatnot. But even when you look at his performance, the way his guard is, he's all over the place, disorientated, in the corner, etc., etc. Even before the first 3 rounds, Joshua was asking weird questions. Why do I feel like this and whatever. That was before the 3rd round as well. His performance comes out tentative. Dave Allen points out, listen, Anthony Joshua looks like a guy who's been abused in sparring, has low confidence. And at that point, there was no rumours of an actual concussion. And as I say, is it a pure coincidence that the time when there is alleged concussion rumours, all of a sudden, Andy Ruiz gave him the concussion? No, he had it before, and now you're trying to make out, it happened in the fight. No, I don't believe it. It's not as if you can sit there and say, well, look at how ferocious the first 3 rounds are. I'm not being funny. Andy Ruiz didn't land a glove in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, Joshua got caught in the pocket by Ruiz, but that I just don't believe. It all went downhill from that point. It's not even true. The first 3 rounds, people have been telling me, you're only saying that because, you're only saying Anthony Joshua looked bad because he got put down. No, he looked shocking. Before the alleged concussion that Hearn's talking about, he looked bad. What makes much more sense to me is he was concussed 8 days before, which explains all of his actions leading up to the fight. It explains potentially why a dude who doesn't normally have panic attacks is having panic attacks. When you're half concussed and you're being told, listen, even though you feel like you're half high and you're living in the clouds, you got to go in there and perform now against a dude who's coming in to take your head off. That'll give you a panic attack, alright. Even if you aren't necessarily predisposed to have them anyway. A concussion will compound and increase the likelihood of a panic attack, especially when you're put under pressure and stress of going into a fight, especially at MSG, etc., etc. It's a whole multitude of things that go into this situation. Anyway, let's get on with it. So after Hearn tries to make out and tries to slide off, you can tell when Eddie Hearn's saying this, you can tell he feels like he's getting off the hook with this. He's thinking, yes, Anthony Joshua suffered a concussion in the 3rd round. No, that's not what happened at all. That is not what happened. But quite nicely for Hearn, you see how he slips that in there. He's never brought up the concussion business before, but all of a sudden now, it was up in the 3rd round he got concussed. Yeah, it's a very particular thing, and I believe it happened a week before. And then Ruiz, don't get me wrong, did Ruiz, not enhance, but did Ruiz make the symptoms of a concussion worse? Absolutely. once you're already concussed, then being hit on the top of the head, that's why Joshua was so, like Dylan White said, that's why Joshua's guard and everything was so leaky. He was so like weak and disorientated. Dylan White said, normally Joshua's got a tight guard. He catches and he counters. He comes from a place of stability and strength. In that fight, he was falling all over the place. And I said myself, some of them shots weren't even hitting him and he was falling over. Up and down like a yo-yo. But that will happen when you've got a dude who's a known combination puncher, combine that with a concussion, combine that with actually being hit flush in the third round and a few times moving on. That's why you'll be up and down like a yo-yo. Disorientation, a loss of motor function. Everything we observe, short-term memory loss, and that's the other thing they bring up. Oh yes, Joshua doesn't, this is Eddie Hearn. Oh yeah, Joshua told me he doesn't remember anything after the third round. Yeah, Joshua told me he was surprised he went 4 rounds on. And this is the problem with Eddie Hearn in a way. Now, normally I've bigged him up for this, but this is the problem. When you've got a big mouth, and when you want to always be the eternal promoter, he sees it. Well, the things he's saying here about, oh yeah, Joshua didn't know, Joshua had memory loss after the third round, and Joshua didn't even realise he'd boxed for 4 rounds, and Joshua was surprised he actually lasts 4 more rounds. When you say them things, Eddie Hearn doesn't realise that he's essentially, in my opinion anyway, he's admitting to a level of guilt here, because in order for that to be the case, so you're telling me Anthony Joshua was 100% in the third round, and that one shot is what completely shut everything down. That one shot is what took his memory loss away. Now, that could be the case, to be fair. However, based on what I've seen in Joshua's career before, I'd love to bet against that. What makes more sense to me is he came in the ring not 100%. He came in the ring with a level of brain trauma. Andy Ruiz was the icing on top of the cake. That's what took the memory loss away. Even little things like in the pre-fight build-up, when the guy asked him about the mark on his eye, and he said, oh yeah, physio. That to me, that's not anyone who's logical of mind would understand that's a very weak excuse. You're better off saying, oh yeah, someone in camp accidentally hit me on the head, or something like, I don't know. That's what makes sense to me. Physio? But that for me goes to show the level of disorientation of Joshua. Look at the first 3 rounds before any headshots are really landed. The first 3 rounds said it all. Man's completely confused as what he is as a fighter. Joshua didn't have one clue. And now he comes out and talks about, oh yeah, I was concussed. How convenient is that? It's too convenient for me. It's really too convenient. There's rumours of concussion before the fight, and now all of a sudden, that one shot that Ruiz gave you got you concussed. Nah, he came into the fight with a concussion, and Ruiz compounded it, no doubt. Oh yeah, Joshua's... And this is the problem with Hearn, as I was saying. He bigs Joshua up. Oh yeah, Joshua got memory loss. Joshua couldn't remember. Couldn't believe he lasted 4 rounds. Now, maybe you lot will be confident enough to say that, yeah, that one shot from Ruiz is what did it all. That one shot gave him memory loss. I don't believe it. I really don't. It makes much more sense. In sparring, you're much likely, or in sparring, just because of the number of rounds, you accumulate damage. And bearing in mind, he shouldn't have been sparring 8 days before anyway. So you've got to question these people. What are they doing? A trainer who will put you in there to spar 8 days before, who's to say they might, for most people would think, oh well, he couldn't have been sparring hard, but most people would have thought he wouldn't be sparring 8 days before. So it follows for me that he's probably sparring 8 days before, and also, any trainer who lets you spar 8 days before will probably also let you go 100%, all in sparring as well, because neither makes sense. Sparring 8 days before and going all out doesn't make no sense. So for me, Robin McCracken, for all we know, he probably was letting Joshua take full headshots with no head guard on and whatnot. Probably was, and I find it weird as well, because if you got a head guard on, that place in the chin that Joshua got the bruise, that's a very particular place. It's on the cheekbone. Now, from what I experienced, that's literally the place head guard sits, is it not? So how do you get a bruise on there? For all we know, 8 days before, not only was he sparring, not only was he going all out, he probably had no headgear on as well. For shits and gigs. Robin McCrackhead, who knows? Let's speculate. That particular place on the top of the cheekbone, that's covered by a head guard. From what I know of head guards anyway. But let's move on to the next part where Eddie Hearn says, and this for me, once again, is more evidence at stuffsfishy.com. He says, Anthony Joshua didn't leave the house for 4 days. Now, once people can sit there and say, oh yeah, that's because he got concussed in the third round. No, he was concussed 8 days before. Ruiz, no doubt, compounded it. And that's why, it's not because listen, Joshua was happy as Larry. He was in the hotel room 4 days after because his head was all scrambled. He'd been concussed and his head had been bashed everywhere. That's why he was in the hotel room. My man's suffering brain injury. Simple. That's another classic sign. Being, what's the word? Not tired, but being drowsy and lethargic. And when you look at AJ's emotions, he wasn't emotionally lethargic. He was happy as he couldn't believe it. So if anything, he should have been out in the partying. But the fact he wasn't implies to me he had this dude's brain mashed up completely. And it's unfortunate that Eddie Hearn's bragging about it in a way. Oh yeah, he lasted. He got a brain injury, and he was surprised he lasted 4 rounds. That's not a good sign. This memory loss business really ain't a good sign. It's not at all. It's really not at all. And the way I know Eddie Hearn's a promoter, but the way he's talking about it, he didn't seem that worried to me. It seemed like it was quite exciting for him. Oh yeah, he couldn't even remember. He couldn't believe he lasted 4 rounds. And I know what Eddie Hearn's trying to do. He's trying to big his man up and trying to give him give him clout. Yeah, he's a real warrior, which he is. But that's here nor there. As a promoter's point of view, I haven't heard anything come out of Eddie Hearn's mouth of saying, you know what, it wasn't a good situation. I was horrified to hear he didn't know what was going on past the 3rd round. And that guy who's so positive with it all, is it a stretch to say? Bearing in mind how positive Eddie Hearn, Joshua's come out and confirmed with him. Even if we take it, let's say he wasn't concussed before the fight. Even if we go on the basis Joshua got concussed in the 3rd round. Yeah? Eddie Hearn doesn't seem, from this particular interview at least, he doesn't seem too concerned. He thinks it's great. So is it a stretch to say that, bearing in mind how great Eddie Hearn thinks this is, oh yeah, he couldn't remember, oh he had short-term memory loss, oh yeah, great, he went 4 rounds, he couldn't believe it. Is it a stretch to say that same promoter would have a problem putting him in the ring beforehand? I'm not so sure. He'd probably be thinking the same things, the same way he's saying now, yeah, Joshua's a warrior, etc., etc. Joshua went 4 rounds, we couldn't remember anything. I bet before the fight, when Joshua was telling him, I feel concussed, he was saying, yeah, you'll be great, you're the warrior, Josh, you're the man, Josh. And McCracken was probably there sitting there geeing him up as well. Simple. That's what I believe anyway. Most people, right, from my point of view, if my fighter came to me and told me I don't remember anything from the 3rd round, and allegedly as well, Joshua hasn't been able to leave the US because of his brain issue, allegedly. I'm just talking alleged. Maybe it's not. That's what I've heard. Either way, what we do know is, Anthony Joshua has come out and said, listen, I can't remember anything from the 3rd round. For me, that's worrying as a promoter, or anyone who really cares about Joshua, that's worrying. That's truly worrying. You're not meant to forget 4 rounds of a fight. At all. So, that's what I think anyway. Is this ironclad proof that Joshua was concussed before the fight? No, but ultimately, I believe, from what I've seen of Joshua, that performance, before Andy Ruiz ever hit him, that performance, them first 3 rounds before Ruiz hit him, completely out, nothing, even another great pinpoint example, when Joshua put him down, Joshua running in with a low lead hand, crazy stuff, running in with a low lead hand, going to finish him. It was almost a sense of panic. He was like, yeah, I got him down, rush in. People are saying, oh, that's because of Wilder, he was trying to relive Wilder. Nah, I'm sorry. You don't lose your fighter DNA like that. Same way he came out in the fight. He came out backstepping. You don't lose your fighter DNA just because of pressure or whatever. If anything, you'd have expected Joshua, if he was truly under pressure and truly scared, why didn't he come out with a high guard and really tuck his chin down and really keep it tight? He came out with a low lead hand and was backstepping, trying to be twinkle toes. It shows a complete disorientation and an inability to process information and make logical and rational decisions, make the right decisions during the fight. Runs into the pocket with a low lead hand, and that was before Ruiz ever hit him. Before Ruiz ever hit him, he put Ruiz down and then runs in with a low lead hand into toe-to-toe land area, into the pocket. Don't make no sense. Don't make no sense at all. He's never been that much of, and he's not that much of a low IQ fighter. In fact, he's actually quite a high IQ fighter. When you watch the Martin fights and whatnot, which happened 3 damn years ago. Come on, let's be real now. And the cardio as well, this is another great thing. Before he was hit in the 3rd round, so before the first alleged concussion took place, what do we know? In the first 2 rounds he was gassing. There was no action going on either, bear in mind. Them first 2 rounds there was nothing going on, and he was blowing in the corner. Another sign. Before the fight, chewing his mouth guard, getting neck massage. Allegedly, neck massages can help alleviate brain trauma symptoms. And this fool for me, and you got these guys. What's the word? The proof for me is when you got all of his team saying, yeah, he was 100%. He was 100% coming into the ring. Oh, it was just round 3. Yeah, Eddie Hearn's glad. Eddie Hearn's glad he'd get put down in round 3. Otherwise, he wouldn't have anything to base it off. Why was Joshua looking so bad? Bang, yeah, it was round 3. Yeah, that's my excuse. Yeah, it was round 3. It was nothing to do before. He was 100% before. BS. I smell it. BS.